Just talk about it. No question, just dialogue. On the Tisa Batey Show. Let's just talk about it. No question, just dialogue. On the Tisa Batey Show. Let's just talk about it. No question, just dialogue. On the Tisa Batey Show. Let's just talk about it. No question, just dialogue. On the Tisa Batey Show.
What's going on? What's going on? It's your girl. I'm up to it again. Welcome, 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 sweet babies, to a power-packed hour. This is going to be a really good show. We are talking to a best-selling author of the book, Rude Awakening, Mr. Robert Whedbee. And we are going to learn about this book, and we're going to learn about his life experiences that led him to write this wonderful, wonderful book. So welcome, everybody. Welcome, 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 Robert, and welcome my sidekick.
Thank you.
Yay.
Glad to be here.
Yes.
Brady, baby.
Welcome. Hey, everyone.
I'm going to ask and encourage everyone who will to go ahead and start sharing this podcast. Share it with everybody you know. Whether you think they can benefit from it or not, they're probably going to learn something. So, again, we are featuring best-selling author, Mr. Robert Whedbee. He is the author of The Rude Awakening. It's a book that he wrote based on personal life experiences. So please, please, please go ahead and share.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go ahead and get right into it. Again, Mr. Whedbee, we welcome you to the Tisa Batey Show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And so we're just going to dive right in. Give us a quick overview of your life experiences and what led you to write this book, The Rude Awakening.
Well, the particular experience that spawned the book, I guess, obviously was the attempt on my life by my then wife and her lover, who was actually the church organist in our community church that we attended. And apparently they had been seeing each other for some time and cooked up a plan to kill me one night in the middle of the night. They attacked me, and I somehow survived and went on with my life. That's a very simplified version.
Wow. You know, we don't typically think that things like this happen in the church.
Yeah.
Right.
So you and your wife were both members of this particular church?
That's correct. Yes. And actually all three of us were members of the same church.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, you took me back with that one there because I had a flashback over here.
Oh, you
But
did?
not your incident, but I had an incident from a previous marriage with someone in the church, and some things went down in the church.
Oh, my goodness. A lot of stuff goes down in the church.
Oh, yes. You kind of hit me. And that was a mental block. You just opened up stuff. See, Tisa, Tisa, you can't keep doing me like this, Tisa.
Well, you know, we just like to talk about it. We just like to talk about it.
Oh, my goodness. I forgot all about that.
So, Robert, tell me, how long had you been a member at this church? What was your, role in the church, if any? And how long had you been married?
Oh, I was a member of this church. I was born into the church. My parents were members, and I'm not sure if you actually join a church when you're a child. I don't remember, but I basically attended that church all of my life, really. And I was 33 at the time. Um, I'm sorry, I went blank. I don't know what the rest of
No,
that question
I was
was.
thinking, how long had you and your wife been married?
13 years.
And you had children?
Two. Had a boy and a girl.
Mm.
He was 8 at the time, and she was 4.
So, did you see any of this coming? Were there obviously? I guess there were problems in the marriage. One could assume, or were you blindsided by all of this?
No, I realized there were problems, but I had no idea it was to that degree. All marriages have problems and issues, from time. There's no such thing as one that doesn't, as far as I know. I've not never known of that, but I didn't. I never thought it was, to that degree. It was at the very end. It was hidden from me. Obviously, what was going on.
And was there ever any talk of divorce? Because when you talk about something like this, it's one thing to have problems,
Right.
and leave a marriage. Typically what you do is you get a divorce if it's not working out. But to go as far as masterminding a plan and an attack on your life, that's major.
Yeah.
It's extreme for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one would have to wonder, like, why not just divorce him? Why attempt to kill him? Do you have any clarity on that?
There were never any admissions on the other side, so anything that I say would be just my own observation and deduction, I guess. But I think it had to do with money and image, not necessarily in that order, but those
Gotcha.
two things.
Yeah.
We had a handicapped child that.
For insurance and for money.
Yeah, I'm in the insurance business. You guys know that, I guess. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But people in the insurance business tend to be heavily insured.
Yeah,
Which I was over $1.5 million worth, and other assets as well that she would have inherited.
Gotcha. I was looking at one of the clips of your story, and it was just really ironic to me. I don't know if irony is the right word, but the man who attempted to take your life, he was wearing a Phantom of the Opera t-shirt.
Yes, and he was using a knife as well. So that is very, at least interesting, if not ironic. I don't know if it's just as simple as it was the only black shirt he had, because he had black pants on and he had a stocking mask on. So he was obviously concerned about being recognized because I knew him. But that always kind of confused me a little bit because his intention was to kill me. So if you kill someone, it doesn't matter if they saw you or not. So I never really put the stocking mask together, but maybe he was afraid somebody else would see him. My neighbors actually went to the same church. So he may have been afraid one of them might see him or something before he got concealed in the house. I don't really know, but I never could figure out why he had the stocking mask on, because he was going to kill his witness. So,
Can you, if it's not too hard for you, can you sort of walk us through to give us a clearer picture of what that night was like and the events of that night, and how you came to defend yourself or even know that this was going to was happening at the time? Can you sort of take us through that?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. I'll have to. I may have to pause it. I've got to get the order.
That's fine. That's fine. Take your time.
At that point, I was actually playing a little softball in an evening or two a week, and I had been to play a game, and I came in probably about, I'm gonna guess 7:30, something like that, and I was told that our son was at my parents' house spending the night, which was not uncommon. But Brittany was home. That's my daughter. I don't know if I'm supposed to say names or not, but
It's okay. Not a problem.
did. She was home, and so I sat down and had some dinner and whatnot, and then Lisa mentioned that Brittany had been asking for me, and I could hear her still in her bed moving around, so I went back and talked to her and read her a book or whatever, and then she went on to sleep. And my habit was to, after dinner and after the kids were in bed, was to back in those days, remember we're talking about 1994, so we didn't have a lot of the automation that we have now. So my habit would be to sit at the dining room table and do a little extra paperwork or whatever. If there wasn't anything, we wanted to watch or whatever, I would do a little paperwork and then go to bed. And this particular night, I was doing the same as usual. Justin wasn't home, so Brittany usually went to bed a little earlier than him. So I sat down and started doing some work, and she approached me and said, are you going to work all night, or are you going to come to bed? So I understood that language. So I went to bed, and one thing led to another and whatnot. And before I know it, I'm asleep. As far as I know, she's asleep. And there was I'm just trying to tell you my memories. And
okay, sure.
the things that, that I saw and heard and whatever, smelled even. There was a window next to our bed that allowed a street light to shine in. And I always kept those blinds closed because that light disturbed me. I wanted it dark. So I always shut those blinds, which were on my side of the bed.
Right.
And what I can remember, for some reason, something was waking me up. And I was in that, I'm going to call it the twilight zone. I'm not really sure what the proper terminology is, but when you're trying to wake up, but you're not really awake, it's that. And there were a couple of things, I guess, that encouraged me to go ahead and wake up. And one was that light. I couldn't understand why that light was shining because I knew I shut those blinds, right? It was always my habit. And that, I think I was thinking about that a little bit. And then I smelled a really, really heavy odor of cigarette smoke. And I couldn't understand that. And so I went ahead and forced myself on awake. And about the time I got somewhat able to see, I felt pressure on my leg. And then I saw a silhouette of an arm like this in that window. And that was Mr. Frazier was positioning himself to stab me. And I happened to get lucky, I guess, on that first thrust, and I must have hit it or blocked it, or maybe he was just a bad shot. I can't really remember, but he did split one of my earlobes. So I think he was trying to stab me in the neck. Probably, I'm guessing. It was dark, except for that window. And so basically at that point, I'm not sure what the heck's going on. And but I'm realizing, hey, somebody's trying to kill me, and I don't know who it is. I was thinking intruder and whatnot, and all kind of things are running through my head while I'm trying to get control of this man's arms, because I know he's got a knife. I've already felt it, seen it, and felt it. So at some point, I got around behind him and got off of the bed, and I had him pinned against the bed. I'm behind him, and I'm reaching around holding his wrists like a bear hug from the back.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm pushing him up against the bed as hard as I can. And now I'm trying to figure out what the crap to do. Pardon me.
Was your wife still in the bed at the time, or had she gotten up?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
I said, was your wife still in the bed at that time, or had she gotten up?
Well, I didn't really know. It was a little too dark to tell, but I looked past his head and I didn't see her. So then I started thinking to myself, well, heck, maybe he killed her, rolled her off in the floor or something. I knew all kind of things are going through my head. And so I'm just trying to figure out now what to do and keep control of him so he can't get that knife loose. And now the whole time he's trying to move it backwards, and he's nicking me here and cutting me there, and I'm trying to block it, and it's just a crazy struggle. And at one point he got loose from me, and I grabbed and I got the knife blade, and he turned it and cut my hand on my left hand down at the base of your thumb right there.
Yeah.
And down to the bone, and there's an artery in there, which I didn't know, but I know now because it started really bleeding, getting slick, and then I could tell he had on rubber gloves. I could feel them, and then I could see that he had a stocking mask on as my eyes began to adjust, to the dark, and then I heard an interesting sound. I had a drainage grate at my garage door to the entrance on the pavement. It had a little like a metal grate sitting down in a concrete trough, and when a car ran across that, it made a distinctive sound, a clang clang sound as the wheels went across that. And I heard that sound, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, he has someone with him. They're stealing the cars. And they've already done something with her, because now I'm hollering for her and she's not responding. And this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, he's got an accomplice.
Of course, yeah.
But turns out that was her coming in, and no one could ever figure out where she had been. But the hood of the car was warm because one of the sheriff's deputies later on touched it, because I told him that story, right? And it was warm. She had been somewhere, but it never was clear where. So anyway, when I heard that, then I started becoming even more concerned. Not like I wasn't already concerned, but now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there's two of them. What in the heck am I going to do?
Yeah.
So about the time I'm ready to try to do something, to run or try anything, she appears in the doorway of the bedroom with a baseball bat. Actually, it was a softball bat, but who's counting? And I'm thinking, oh, she's here to help me.
Yeah.
And so I'm hollering at her because she seems like she's not able to move. She's just kind of standing there, and I'm thinking, well, maybe she's in shock or something. I don't know what all else has gone on, because of the car. I'm still trying to figure out, where is this other person, because I didn't think it was her. I thought somebody else was in that car.
Of course.
So anyway, my mind's just rolling 1,000 miles a second, and it's almost like she can't hear me. I'm hollering at her, turn the light on, call the cops. There's a man in here with a knife trying to kill me. And I knew I felt like she must have known, because she had a bat, she had a weapon.
Right.
But she was just being very odd at that point. Like, I'm thinking, what is she doing? Move it, turn that light on, give me some light here. Let's figure out what. And so she just, now she never turned the light on, but I kept, hollering at her, turn that light on. Call 911, turn the light on. So now she starts approaching the bed, the foot of the bed. I'm at the head of the bed, basically, with him still pinned. And she's approaching slowly and slowly and slowly. And she never swings the bat, but she keeps coming in. Like maybe she's blocking or something. I don't know. I still couldn't figure out what she was doing, why she wasn't doing more. then she starts saying to me, let him go and come with me. And I thought, I'm not letting him go. He's got a knife in one hand. You turn the light on and we're talking. I mean, we're talking back and forth, and I've got this guy. I'm like, what are you doing? You know? And I still can't figure it out. I'm like, would you get busy here? I'm not
Help me out here.
No, he has a weapon, you know?
Yes.
And I knew better than to let go of it. I knew he'd stab me. And so finally, now I notice he's getting more and more agitated. He's fighting harder and harder. Now he's trying to hit me with the back of his head. He's trying to, now I'm getting my grip is getting slick because of the blood. And now we're sweating. Now I'm sweating too. I mean, I can barely keep my grip because of all the, mostly blood on that one side. But, so anyway, we go on this way for a little bit, and then he says to her, you've got to do it, and you've got to do it right now.
Oh, wow.
And I recognized his voice. See, I'd known him for about 10 years. As a church member, I recognized his voice, and I started to recognize his build, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is Michael Frazier. What in the world? And then probably one of the dumbest things I've ever done, I said that out loud. I said, this is Michael Frazier.
Oh,
and
wow.
Then he knew he had to kill me. I mean, immediately. So he really started struggling. And, I realized there's two of them and they're both against me. So she's coming even closer, and she keeps raising that bat up, like trying to give him a little extra time, I guess, or whatever. So I stood up finally with him, and I picked him up over my head and threw him into the corner across the nightstand. And I took off, on a run. And when I went past her, I just took that bat away from her. And she didn't really resist much. She didn't swing it at me. I took it away from her and went on down the hallway and out toward the garage. What I was trying to do at that time was try to get some distance.
Yes.
From get some light so I could figure out what the heck to do. Now with a knife, if he's 5 or 6 feet from you, you're pretty well dead.
Yeah.
You gotta get out of there. So anyway, I made it to the garage. I went through the den, through the kitchen, and then I could hear him at that point running. I could hear him panting, and he was knocking stuff off of the walls. He knocked some pictures down in the hallway running, and I could hear him hitting the wall and hitting the doorway. I don't know why he was running into that, but he was. I could hear him, and I could hear like things falling, Maybe he didn't know well enough, like I did, but because all the lights were off.
Yeah.
But so I go out into the garage through the kitchen, and I hit the garage door opener. And of course, what that does, obviously, it turns the light on.
Right.
So up goes the garage door, and the light comes on, and then he comes right out behind me. And I square off with the bat, and he comes out with the knife, and he gets to be about 3 feet from me. So I raise the bat, and if he gets another foot or so closer, I'm going to hit him. And he changed his mind about that time, I guess. Figured, hey, I don't want to deal with this bat. And I don't look at now. I'm 60 years old, but back then I was a weightlifter and a pretty strong guy back then. Anyway, he didn't want to go down that road, so he went back in the house, shut that kitchen door, and locked it. So now I'm trying to get back in the house. I can't get back in the house. They locked the front door, and I'm thinking to myself, Brittany's in there. So our daughter was in her bed asleep. Our son was not home. She was in her bed asleep, if you kind of catch my drift there. And so anyway,
wow.
I got an idea. Now, remember, no cell phones, right? We didn't have cell phones back then. It was right just about when they started to come out. So my next door neighbor, who was a friend of mine and actually attended that same church, believe it or not, um, I thought I got to get Bill's attention. His name was Bill. So I was hollering at his bedroom window and he wasn't responding. So I took that bat and I started at that portion of my house. It was low, just one story there. So I started banging on that gutter and hollering at him. Well, up goes his window and he's like, "What in the world are you doing down there?" I said, "Get down here. Somebody's trying to kill me with a knife." And Lisa's in on it. He's like, "What?" So here he comes, and he comes down there. And I told him who it was. And, Bill knew him just like I did, is the church. He said, "You've got to be kidding me." I said, "No, Bill, I'm not kidding you." And he saw all the blood and everything. And I said, "Go around the back of the house and head him off. He may be trying to get away, this and that." So we ran around for a while trying to figure out where he was. But in the meantime, turns out he had gone out our basement door and was gone. So Bill hollered at his wife, Suzanne. Bill hollered at her. She was up in the window now looking out, trying to figure out what's going on. And he asked her to call, 911, which she did. And then, within about 10 minutes, I guess the police started to show up. And probably not long after that, the news crews started showing up, and it was quite the circus.
Had your wife left as well, or was she still at the house?
She was still in the house, and in fact, she came out playing the
victim.
Yeah, not necessarily. Yeah, the surprised, shocked, the intruder game. What she was playing, she was trying to sell that, even though she knew I had recognized him because I told them so. And so I just basically told her in front of Bill, "You know good and well who that was. It was Michael Frazier, and you're in on it." And so she just sort of walked back into the garage and back into the house and sat down and just, I guess, waited. And then the police started showing up, and I told them, what I thought happened and whatnot. So they questioned me and they questioned her. And then later on that evening, they arrested her and charged her with attempted. I think the initial charge was attempted first-degree murder.
Wow.
And later on, they found him. They staked out his residence, and I think about 6 o'clock in the morning, the next morning, he showed up, and they arrested him. So,
wow, and what a story!
It was a trip.
What a story! Did you have any idea that they were seeing each other? Had you even heard a rumor that they were involved?
I had, actually, and I have an aunt who had bumped into them at a restaurant, and she called me and she said, "Rob, I don't want to butt into your business, but I saw Michael and Lisa having lunch today, and they looked like they were a little more friendly than just friends." Does that make sense? And I don't really know how to say this, but Michael, I don't know if you've seen pictures, if you've looked.
I have, and I was shocked. I was shocked when I saw who this man was, and then I saw pictures of you back then. I was like, I know looks aren't everything, but I was like, wow, she really didn't come up with him. Like, she really sort of took a step back. But like I said, again, looks aren't everything. But I was really, when you look at your pictures back then, and then when you compare him to how he looked, it was like, wow.
He's not what you would consider to be, I'm going to say, a ladies' man.
At all.
So I actually confronted her about that, to be honest with you. And I asked her, I said, I've heard a rumor that, you're having lunch with so-and-so and Mr. Frazier and Michael. You guys are a little bit too friendly, apparently, occasionally. And she said, "Rob, honestly, really, I mean, this woman's a super good liar. She's a great liar." And she said, you know what? If I was going to cheat on you, don't you think I could do a little better than Michael Frazier? And I thought, yeah, probably could. So I let it go. Because I knew they were friends. They sang in the choir together. I mean, well, she was in the choir, but he was the choir director and the organist. So and they were friends. They'd been friends for several years. And, that just didn't seem all that odd to me or threatening because I just, maybe I was the fool there. Probably was.
Well, we've all played that role at one time or another, but certainly on the outside looking in, one would really wonder why she would cheat on you with someone.
Well,
so close.
What the lead detective Dan Stewart said is, well, when you're trying to find somebody to commit murder for you or with you, you don't get the top of the heap a lot of times.
Yeah, somebody who needs to be needed. Someone who,
And I'm gonna say something that I don't want to be crude or anything here, but I think she was purposefully allowing him to bat out of his league, so to speak. And he wasn't about to lose that, no matter what he had to do.
Right. And she was using him because she could manipulate him to do
whatever
she wanted. So,
you're absolutely right. She was manipulating him.
So that's why she gave him a thriller fantasy. Oh, I can never have somebody on this level. Oh man, I'd do anything to keep this. Whatever you want, whatever she suggested, he was willing to do it.
Yeah.
I think you hit that nail on the head.
Yeah. Well, what was their sentencing like? I mean, what sentence did they actually receive?
Well, interestingly enough, the title. Well, I won't go into the title of the book yet, I guess, but
you can certainly talk about the title. This is your time.
Well, he actually stood trial, and he was convicted. He was charged with attempted first-degree murder, and that's the same. That's the same charge that she was charged with because she was not only conspiring, but she was She was participating because she was on scene with a weapon. But anyway, that was the original charges, and if you know anything about the legal system, which I assume you've run into it more than once with your show and whatnot, a lot of times the original charge is not what actually takes place. But he actually stood trial, charged with attempted first-degree murder, and he was convicted of attempted voluntary manslaughter. And he got 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah. And the woman who wrote my book or assisted me in writing my book, she actually did a great deal of legwork, and part of it was co-author, I guess. I don't know. I don't know all the correct terms. But,
she's co-author.
She did a lot of legwork, and part of her research was interviewing jurors, and she was actually able to interview, I think, 4 of the original jurors in the case. And basically what they told her was they felt like he was a stooge. He was a patsy, just like what I was saying earlier. He was led.
And I'm sure he probably was.
Yep.
But does that make him any less guilty?
Not in my mind, but apparently those jurors didn't really want to give the man, too big time, hard, too hard a time. Yeah. And good, right or wrong, that's kind of how that worked for him. But so he got a sentence of 4 years in the state penitentiary in Nashville. So he did pretty hard time for those 4 years.
What about your wife?
Well, she never stood trial. She they accepted a plea from her, and she pled guilty to attempted second-degree murder.
Wow.
And conspiracy, I believe. I have to get that right. and she got a sentence of 6 years, but she only did 1 year in the county jail and then 5 years on probation.
Wow. Wow.
So he actually got harder time than she did, but a shorter sentence, if that makes any sense. But you would have to know, Lisa, she was a petite, very non-threatening type of person, a pretty woman, well-dressed, well-spoken, and just a superb liar, if that makes any sense.
Obviously.
So I think the prosecutors were a little bit afraid to get her on the stand.
No.
So tell us about what they put you through, the justice system, when you were going through all of this. I mean, how do you feel about the criminal justice system as it speaks to victims? What was your experience with the whole thing?
Well, it was actually my first experience in the criminal justice system in my life. And I really knew nothing about it except what I thought I knew from, school and watching the news and just different, I had no personal experience with it. Didn't really know. But that's part of the title of my book. The title of the book, of course, is Rude Awakening. I had a very rude awakening that evening or that night, with the man trying to put a knife in me. And then finding out my wife is conspiring with him to assist him in doing that. That was the first rude awakening, an actual rude awakening. And then the second rude awakening, it's a kind of a pun, was the indoctrination into the justice system. And it was a little hard to understand back then. And I have come to terms with the why, some of the uneven playing field, which I didn't understand. But the most defense attorneys, and I've actually had several conversations with his defense attorney since he's dead. Mr. Frazier's deceased now. His defense attorney was a fairly high-profile attorney in town, and we've actually had conversations, about it. But the most effective thing to do, especially if there is a woman that is looked like her, basically, is to villainize the victim. And I didn't really look like a classic victim to most people, and I didn't particularly act like a victim. And so,
what do you mean you didn't act like a victim?
Well, I went on with my life and I continued my daily activities. I didn't fall apart, so to speak.
Okay.
I went on.
You didn't feel sorry for the situation.
Business and Knoxville's not a huge town. It's pretty small, really, in relation to Atlanta, obviously, and larger cities. So a lot of people know each other. It's kind of, and I've been in business for years, so a lot of people knew me and they saw me going about my business and whatnot. And the news, the cameras were just in love with this story. I mean, they were everywhere. And the newspaper, the local stations, it even went on national. It was in People magazine, actually.
Wow.
It went, on the wire, on the AP wire back then, and it went everywhere. So there were a gentleman named John Quinones. You know who he is?
I do not.
No.
He still does I forget what his show's called, but he's I think he's on CBS. But anyway, I guess I got a little bit off subject there.
Yeah, we were talking about how they treated you.
Yeah, they. I think looking back, the prosecutors probably did as good a job as they could do, for the most part, except they were a little overmatched with his attorney, and he did an excellent job. But basically, the playing field that I'm referring to that's not level is that the prosecution is bound to only put forth a theory that can be proven with some type of evidence, either eyewitnesses, forensic evidence, that sort of thing. And if they throw a bunch of things in there that they can't prove, with some type of evidence,
Mm-hmm.
they're at risk of having a mistrial declared. But on the other hand, the defense can just pretty much come up with any kind of theory they want to and throw it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand that. Okay. And the theory they came up with is that I was a mean guy. I was beating my wife, and I was this horrible person who, basically deserved to be killed.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That was what they thought, because there was absolutely no evidence to support that. It's not the case. It never has been the case. So the worst part of it all is apparently the newspaper can pick up transcripts from a trial, and they can reprint that. And all of those accusations that his attorney made ended up in the newspaper.
Oh, wow.
But a whole lot of people were like me. They didn't understand that doesn't have to be true or backed up in fact.
Gotcha.
And apparently you cannot sue if all they're doing is reprinting transcript from a trial. And basically the defense can throw anything they want to in there.
So it really damaged it. Did that damage your reputation?
I was afraid it would, but it actually didn't. And I think the reason it didn't is there was never any evidence produced. No pictures, no doctor's visits, no, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
But I did worry about that. I'll be real honest with you. I worried about it, in conjunction to my business and my standing in the community. But later on, after a few years, I began to ask some of my more trusted clientele and whatnot. And most of them said, we didn't buy that for a second. Not for a second.
Good deal. Good deal.
Which I was glad, for that. But it did shock me, the things that that attorney was allowed to say, that he didn't have a shred of evidence to back up.
Wow. So let me ask you this question.
That's where I learned that was my rude awakening there.
That was your rude awakening. Gotcha.
And also the verdict he got to me was ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that most people watching would concur with that. That's really for attempted murder. That's talk about a slap on the wrist. But let me ask you this, why, after all of these years, why now? Why did you write this book? What are you hoping to accomplish?
In the beginning, I think, I don't know if I guess a lot of people have been through some traumatic experiences. I don't know, some have, I guess maybe some haven't, but it all happened so fast, and it was all so unexpected, and just kept coming, and just day after day, just pounded with one bit of bad news after the other, just this and that and all this stuff, and answered all these questions for the cops and for the prosecutors. I mean, it was just something all day long, every day, and trying to run my business and raise my kids. I mean, it was very overwhelming. And sometimes people would ask me questions, and I would forget. I would have to really think about it to think, well, what happened? When did that happen? Was that before that happened or after that happened? And what order did that happen in? So I sat down and started writing some notes about it, That's probably, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 years ago, which is a long time after the event. It happened in 1994.
Yeah.
And so anyway, almost day one, people that knew me, people that did business with me would say, man, you got to write a book. This is crazy. You got to write a book. And I thought, I don't know how to write a book. I'm an insurance agent. I don't know how to write a book, So I was looking at all those notes one day, and I thought, I'll just write a book. Maybe I can get all this straight in my head. I can get it off of my mind. It just kept coming back to my mind, and I wanted to get it out.
Get it out, yeah.
And I guess I thought I could do that, I'll get it out of there. It'll quit swirling around. It'll be in this form, here it is. And so I started trying to write the book, and I worked on it for a long time, probably a couple of years, trying to type. And my typing is pathetic. It's just hunt and peck, 2 fingers. And not that my mind is so fast, but my typing is so slow that I would get frustrated because I don't know if you've ever tried to write something, that happened years before, but I would get in a position where I wanted to start putting this down, and then my mind was going so much faster than my typing, I get frustrated.
Gotcha.
So then I decided, well, I'll just write it longhand. And that didn't work much better because after a page or two, my fingers were cramping up, and I'm like, well, this isn't good. So I gave up for a while. And one day I was at my accountant's office, and his assistant knew I was trying to write a book. And she said, how's the book coming? So I told her, not very good. And I told her the same thing I just told you. And she said, well, maybe you should try the dragon. And I said, well, I don't even know what the dragon is, but if I knew, I'd try it, I guess. And she said, well, it's voice recognition. You plug it in your computer, you talk to it, and it was like the first generation of voice recognition software, which every cell phone has now and every Bluetooth. But back then it was called, for some reason, I guess Dragon was some type of acronym. I don't really know, but it was called Dragon Naturally Speaking. I don't know if you guys are probably too young to have ever heard of that, but anyway, you had a little headset, and you plugged it into your computer, and you started talking into it, and it learned my voice pretty well, and it got most words right, and I could just go back and make changes. Now that worked good for me, and that's the way I got the book, written. But then it really wasn't a book; it was just a lot of facts and memories and what I felt about this, what I remember about that. And,
was it therapy for you to write to get that out? Was that therapeutic?
It absolutely was. But at that point, I had no knowledge of how to get a book published. I didn't have any idea. I contacted a few publishers, and I didn't get anything back. So I thought, well, I'll just leave that there, and I'll use it for my own reference if I need it later or whatever. But out of the blue, I got a email from Sherry Martinez, the author listed on the book with me.
Right.
And she started out, hey, I'm not a stalker. I promise, I just saw your story on one of those documentaries. I guess it was probably City Confidential. It's been done on several formats, and City Confidential did one, and Snap did one, and ID's done 2. But anyway, so I said, hey, I've got a book. She said, I want to help you write a book. She said, I'm an author. I want to help you write a book. I said, I've got a book. I just don't know how to sell it. She said, well, can I see it? Can we work on it together? I said, well, sure. So she came to Knoxville. She lives in North Carolina. And she looked at all that I had, and she said, well, you've got a really good start here, but you don't have a book. Okay. You've got an outline, So she took that and turned it into a book after doing a lot more research and interviews with like the jurors. And she never could get an interview with the judge, but she got an interview with the attorneys and, all this kind of thing, and wrote, I believe, a really good book.
Can you hold the book up, Robert, so everybody can see?
I just happen to have one here.
Just happen to have one.
That's right. It right there. Yeah.
My favorite colors.
So
let's see if I can get it squared in the frame there a little bit. Yeah.
So everybody, that is the cover.
The cover art is, they asked me, the Page Publishing published the book, and they asked me to come up with what I remembered about the incident. And that
so
is,
you can see the
my
silhouette.
most vivid memory is his silhouette between me and that window.
Yeah, you can see the silhouette. A man is holding, obviously, a knife over his head, and you can see a silhouette through the. So very, very. I mean, the book cover itself makes you want to know more about what's inside of the book. So where can people pick this book up? Where can they obtain it?
It's available on Amazon, and it's also available on Barnes and Noble's website. I don't think Barnes is carrying it in the stores anymore, but it's still on their website. So
Amazon and Barnes and Noble, if you guys want to pick that book up.
Most people are probably getting it through Amazon. But, some folks don't like Amazon for some reason or another, but you can get it from Barnes. It's available in 3 different formats. It's available in hardback, paperback, and ebook.
I love Amazon. I mean, they did a wonderful job with
a lot of people do.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. There have been all these documentaries, and you've mentioned, all the networks and all the shows that actually did reenactments of this. Emotionally, how did you feel after it happened? And then I want you to sort of walk me into the progression of your life now, like how your life has unfolded since.
But before you do that,
before I do that,
question. And after her first question, how did the kids take it? Because I know kids was involved. That was my one of the questions I was waiting.
Good question.
Yeah. Well, our daughter is profoundly handicapped, and I don't believe she really ever knew anything about it. Our son, he took it very hard. He took it very hard.
Is there a relationship between he and his mom today?
No, there's not.
No. Wow. So talk to me about how your life has unfolded since those events.
Well, right after it all happened, it was a blur, to tell you the truth, and that is one of the reasons I decided to write the book. I wanted to clear that blur up, and put everything in chronological order, frankly. And it was probably the criminal proceedings and the divorce and all lasted over 2 years. So that 2 years was very, very difficult, trying to balance everything. But after that, it got a little better. I had a lot of support from friends and family. My mother and father were very helpful with the children. There were a lot of challenges with Brittany, mostly as far as health care and nursing and that kind of thing. But I just put it back together the best I could and went on, and I've actually been quite successful through a lot of effort and stubbornness sometimes.
Have you remarried?
I'm not.
You have not remarried?
No.
Do you think you ever will?
I don't know.
How are you at trusting people? Do you trust easily anymore? Or no?
No, not particularly good.
Not particularly
I don't distrust everyone, but I say it like this: before all that happened, I was prone to trust a person until they gave me a reason not to. But it's kind of flipped for me now. Yeah. I don't trust a person until they show me that I can.
And that's certainly understandable.
Yeah, certainly. And that might just be a function of age too. I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this: Have you had any conversations, or seen your ex-wife, had any conversations with her since this has all transpired?
Just one brief conversation, but nothing really.
Have you forgiven her?
I believe so. I'm not absolutely sure.
Yeah. It's got to be tough. I mean, that's a tough one. That's a huge pill to swallow. Wow. Again, guys, for you guys who are just tuning in, we are talking to best-selling author of the book called Rude Awakening, best-selling author Robert Whedbee. He is sharing his life experiences that led him to write this book. And again, the book is called Rude Awakening. He takes us on his journey about what led him to actually write the book. He was, there was an attempted murder on his life. And the guilty parties were his wife, who conspired with an organ player at their church, a minister of music, conspired to take his life because they were having an affair, or at least that's one reason we know that they conspired to take your life. I'm sure that, like you said, it was something deeper that led to the actual reason why they conspired.
She never really accepted our daughter, and that was a source of friction sometimes.
What do you mean she never accepted her disabilities? Or
yes, she's profoundly disabled, and I think she was always ashamed of that to a degree.
Wow.
It didn't fit that picture. It didn't fit into that mold.
As a mother, that's really that's difficult to hear because, you know, to me as a mother, it would almost make me love them more.
I understand.
You know what I'm saying? So that really speaks in volumes to me of her character. Wow.
It says about all you need to know.
That about sums it up. So, do we see a movie in the making? It sounds like a movie to me.
That's the second thing that folks say. They say, "Gosh, that'd make a great movie." Just almost everyone who has read the book that has communicated with me has said that almost the first sentence out of their mouth. That should be a movie, they'll say.
So is it in the working?
Hollywood's not calling so far, as they say. So if you know Hollywood, have them call.
Hollywood's not calling yet.
Not yet, yeah.
I do
have their screenplay right here.
Oh, wow. Yeah, exactly. I mean, for all the coverage, it's really amazing that they're not calling you yet. All the coverage that this story has got.
It was so long ago, I don't really know what to do.
They will. You just have to just keep putting it out there, getting on different platforms and sharing your story. It is. I can see Snap doing that.
They did it.
They did, yeah.
Snapstar did it.
Snap did do it.
Yeah.
Snap did do it.
Yeah. Have you been to the movie festivals? Registered with movie festivals and pitch it?
I haven't. I really haven't.
Yeah,
wow.
They have one coming in April or May. Here in Atlanta.
What's meant to happen will happen. So if it's meant to be on the big screens, I'm certainly a firm believer that is exactly what will happen. Anyway, guys, we're almost out of time.
Oh my God, you're kidding me.
Yeah, hey, I'm telling you, time flies when you're having fun, right? This
went
has
by
been
fast.
It went by pretty fast. Yeah. So, guys, we would encourage you to go out and pick up this book. Pick it up. It's called The Rude Awakening. And the author is Robert Whedbee. And what's your co-author's name?
Sherry Martinez.
Yeah, and you can get the book on Amazon. You can probably find it. I would venture to say that you can find it online, probably anywhere books are sold.
I actually have a website if they want to. It's Rob-Whedbee-Rude-Awakening, and there's a link to purchase there. It takes them to Amazon if they want to do it that way.
Rob-Whedbee, and that's WHEDBEE-Rude-Awakening.com. You can Google that. Yeah, you can Google that website address.
Or they can just go to Amazon, whatever they want to do.
Gotcha. Well, Robert, thank you so much for being on the show, for participating, and thank you for opening up about your life and your life experiences. I know that, as long as it's been still, I can imagine talking about it at times can be painful.
It can be at times. It wasn't particularly tonight. That's good.
Well, good. I'm glad. I hope that we made it a little bit easier on you. But again, thank you so much for sharing your life experiences with us, at least that part. And thank you for participating on this podcast, guys. Thanks to all the viewers who have commented. There are several comments that, of course, we're not going to be able to get to tonight, but we will attempt to respond to each and every one of your comments at some point. And I would encourage Robert, if he has the time and the wherewithal, if you'd like to respond to any of the personal comments that are directed towards you, please do so. We love our viewers. You guys are relevant. You guys matter. Thank you so much for supporting the Tisa Batey Show. Also, go to my YouTube channel, Tisa Batey, the Life Coach, and please subscribe. If you know people who are not on social media, they can pick up any of my podcasts and watch them on my YouTube channel. Tisa Batey, Life Coach. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Baby, are you going to take us out?
Yes.
Again, let me put the book.
There we go.
No pressure, just dialogue on the Tisa Batey Show. Let's just talk about it. No pressure, just dialogue.
Bye, sweet baby.
Tisa Batey Show.